Okay, God willing, inshallah, we are continuing with our studies in Quran. We are now in Surah 2, verses 4 to 8. Mind you that our point of view is not from the point of view of institutionalized religions as they are viewed today, but rather from a spiritual point of view, from a point of view that is universal, meaning it is worldwide. It is not or necessarily institutionalized Islam as it is viewed today, but rather a certain universal point of view, which strives to do the will of Allah, as you say. Okay, if you want, please consult the previous broadcast, because it will be simply impossible to repeat everything that was said in previous podcasts, and then it will drag us back. But the preliminaries that we said in the beginning are necessary. Okay, so please listen to them so that you will know where our approach is coming from. Aside from this, we are using any kind of text or any kind of book or any kind of teaching that will uplift or be useful. Yes, and if it comes, what is the heart of stone? In Hebrew, it is called Lev HaEven. In the Quran, here in these verses, speaks in general about the concept of disbelief. Belief and disbelief. And in superficial point of view, this might I go to the mosque and I keep the commandments of Islam, so I'm a believer. Or if I go to a synagogue and I keep the commandments of Judaism, I assume that I am a believer, right? But true spirituality teaches us that it is much more complicated than this. Because the belief, where is it found? Is it found in the actions, or is it found in the heart? Okay? The belief is what is truly in the heart of each person. And that is why we ask for God for help, for prayer, that He will guide our hearts towards the true path. As the Quran begins, heart. Sometimes you can see people, and they can seem very devout, even more devoted than others. And they seem radical, and they seem the most extreme in their external faith. But inside, deep inside, they could be rotten. They can, like it is said in the verse, they say that they believe, but they do not. In Hebrew, in Judaism, are not the same. They have one thing in their mouth and a different thing in their heart. And these are the biggest deceivers. They present themselves as the representations of religion, and they are not. And these are the most dangerous people. Why? Because a person that says, I do not believe, I don't believe, okay? Then you will not be deceived by him and go after him and be mesmerized by thinking that he represents God, that he represents the religion. Well, if a person says, I am a believer, and you need to take my example, that's why these people are the most dangerous. Okay, that is why true believers need to ask for the guidance of God. Okay, so that they will not be deceived by these people. Let's listen to the verses and then continue to study. Just a moment. Why is it not loading? Just a second, my friend. Let's see why it is not loading.
والذين يؤمنون بما أنزل إليك وما أنزل من قبلك وبالآخرة هم يوقنون أولئك على هدى من ربهم وأولم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون ختم الله على قلوبهم وعلى سمعهم وعلى أبصارهم غشاوة ولهم عذاب عظيم ومن الناس من يقول آمنا بالله وباليوم الآخر وما هم بمؤمنين يخادعون الله والذين آمنوا وما يخدعون إلا أنفسهم وما يشعرون.
So please forgive me, but I stopped. We have heard the verses. Now let us try to study. Let us try to contemplate and to learn and to obtain some spirituality from trying to get as much as we can from the verses. Okay, so in English translation, let's read the English translation, and then we will try to learn further. And who believe in what has been revealed to you, O prophet, and what was revealed before you hereafter. Okay, so as we said before, the requirement for belief is not just in what is revealed now, but also what was revealed in the past. Okay, to the prophets of Judaism and to what came after them and also before Muhammad. It is they who are truly guided by their Lord, and it is they who will be successful. As for those who persist in disbelief, it is the same whether you warn them or not. They will never believe. Allah has sealed their hearts and their hearing, and their sight is covered. They will suffer a tremendous punishment. And there are some who say we believe in Allah in the last day, yet they are not true believers. They seek to deceive Allah and the believers, yet they only deceive themselves, but they fail to perceive it. There is sickness in their hearts, and Allah only lets their sickness increase. They will suffer a painful punishment for their lives. Just a moment, friends. Certain almost philosophical question. What does God care if certain people believe or not? What? Yes, it might seem like you. But from a spiritual point of view, what does God care if people believe in him or not? Right? What, is he some sort of like a human king that cares for his own honor? God is of infinite power. God has created the world. And we humans are feeble dust compared to him. The king will care for what human beings do. Why? A hen of chickens, and he will tell to them, you need to believe in me. And the chickens will not believe in him. Will the human being be angry at them? It's ridiculous. Why do I care what the chicken thinks about me? So you said this is preposterous. But if we compare the distance between us and God, the distance between us and Allah, the distance is far greater than between a human being and a chicken. Philosophical question. Why should God care if we believe in him or not? Why should he care? Now, the point is the following, that the truth of the matter is that God does not need anything. He does not need us to believe in him. It's not for his purpose. It's not for his benefit. Who needs to believe in God? We human beings need to believe in him. Because the teaching of spirituality, the teaching of belief and faith is essential for human culture and for human existence. And every human being needs some form of spirituality to live in a harmonious, peaceful way. Even secular cultures have societies that are spiritually weak decline. They become decadent. They become rotten. And then they corrupt themselves. Okay? So when God says and commands human beings to believe, we think that it is for the sake of God. But it is actually for the sake of humanity. It is for the sake of the people. Okay? Now, we can ask. So from this point of view, it a bit shifts the idea, and it also maybe solves another question, right? If the purpose of belief in God is to receive just benefits in the world to come, in the hereafter, yeah, heaven and so on, then you would say, okay, there are the believers and there are the non-believers, and then who cares where the other person belongs? It is all fair, okay? I don't care what he believes, and he shouldn't care what I believe. And each of us, after this world, will go to where he belongs. This is if your point of view is that belief has only to do with the world to come. If it only has to do with whether you will go to heaven or not, then it makes everything simple. Nobody should care for it. Does his own decisions, and then some people will go to hell, or some people will go to heaven, and some people will go to a higher heaven, and that's it. It's spiritual economy, right? Everybody gets according to how much he efforted in this world. However, in such a way, he made it in such. God has made it in such a way that he made it a favor so that nobody will be able to go to hell. Why? Because in this world, the people that want to disassociate from themselves from any type of spirituality, okay, they are also denying parts of humanity from reaching to a correct and harmonious reality also in this world. Now, in this world, we're not free souls. We depend on each other. We can get hurt by each other. We can have we can make problems for each other. And since we make problems for each other, we also depend on each other. And we cannot say, what do I care what my friend does? Or what I care for him? He can go to hell, and I will go to heaven. We cannot allow ourselves to do this. Because in this world, we all depend on each other. Okay? And if parts of humanity are denied of light, and denied from harmony, and denied from peace, then the whole world suffers because of it. That is the spiritual point of view. From a spiritual point of view, all humanity is one. We are all interconnected and responsible for each other. To a certain sense, we would think that this is a negative thing. Why will I suffer if my friend is doing wrong? But from a different point of view, we see that it is also mercy from God, also mercy from Allah. Why? because by this I can help him correct himself, and we are all in mutual guarantee one to each other. Okay? If one part of humanity is pained, we are all pained. If one part of humanity is elevated and corrected, it affects and brings forward good to all parts of humanity. Therefore, from a spiritual point of view, all of humanity is one. It cannot be elements from ourselves, and they are in pain, and we are okay in heaven. It cannot be. The bliss of heaven cannot be complete as long as certain parts of humanity suffer. This is from the true spiritual point of view. And this makes things much more complicated in a sense, but also a bit more logical. Okay? I have a certain parable for this. The parable is that we think of all humanity like a big ship. You remember this? There was used to be a movie, a TV series. It was called Star Trek, right? With millions of people on it, milliards of people on it, like a small world that goes through space. In spirituality, this is the way we view all of humanity. All of humanity is like one big ship. Yes? Driving towards a mutual goal that we all have. And imagine that some passengers within this ship will decide, we have our room in the ship, and we want to make a hole in this ship. We want to start drilling a hole in this ship. If they will do this, the other passengers will tell them, look, you're drilling a hole in the ship. You will take us all down. You cannot drill a hole in the ship, because even if it is your room, if there will be a hole in the ship, we will all drown. Then imagine that these passengers that are corrupt will come and say, no, we don't drill in our part, in your part, we drill in our part. We're allowed to do whatever we want. Of course it's the case. The people that say we don't want the good, do not want spirituality, we do not want good, we want bad. What do you care if we want bad? We do it in our corner. We do it in our place. We do the corruption in our place. Then the argument is flawed, because even if they corrupt themselves, it's like a limb from the body that will say, I am the left hand. I can inflict pain upon myself, and the rest of the body will not have pain. This is ridiculous. If one limb of the body is sick, it affects the whole rest of the body. Okay? And therefore, all people in the world are in mutual guarantee. The ones that have been blessed and have been granted by God to be on the side that is healthy and spiritual and connected to the good, they cannot say, we disregard the rest of the parts and we just want to get to heaven. We are also responsible through spirituality to all the rest of humanity, because we are all one body. But on the other hand, they cannot directly affect the sick parts. They cannot directly make them believe. It's not possible. Like the Quran says, if you will tell them, they will not listen. This is only God can heal them through prayers. If you will fight it directly, it will not help anything. It will just make things worse. You will just inflict more pain into the world, and this pain will propagate and create more sick parts. That is why this thing is so complicated. Okay? War, pain, bloodshed, wars, and so on. This is the way of evil to spread itself. It will never lead to further correction. It is like the worst case scenario is that the person is so sick that you need to cut off a limb. But this is painful, and this is only last resort. It takes along the way so that real war will evolve. Okay? Now, so you can say, why would Allah, why would God, as the Quran says here, right? Why would he punish them? Why would God punish? God wants good for humanity. Why do it in such a way? If these people are sick, and why does the Quran tell us that God will make their sickness worse and makes their corruption worse so that it will become so strong until they would be severely punished? Why? What kind of cruelty is this? Now, from a spiritual point of view, we do not view God as cruel. We view him as absolute good. Like in Islam, he's called Al-Rahman Al-Rahim, right? Merciful, the most merciful. So just imagine if it will be a father. A father, if he will have a son, and the son will rebel against him, will the father want to punish the son even more and make him his sin against him even more so that he can punish him in a more severe punishment? So this seems in the beginning like a riddle. But mind you, that once we understand that we are dealing with a sickness, we might start understanding things differently. If the teachings teach us that these people, that the people that deny themselves from the true spiritual teaching are sick, and they by themselves cannot understand their sickness, they cannot understand that there is something wrong in them. Look in nature. What happens when a person is very, very sick? What will be better for him? If the sickness will make him pain, or if the sickness will be inside him with no pain? Let us think about this for a moment. Let us think about this for a moment. Think that is deadly. Some people have a deadly disease, but they feel no pain. The disease does not injure. He says, I feel good. I don't feel any pain. I don't know that I'm sick. And inside him, there is something that is killing him. But if he will not know that he is sick, and he will not have pain, he will not be able to fight against the disease. Therefore, having pain from the sickness is also mercy from God, is mercy from Allah. That God takes these sick parts of society and makes them and makes the lives that they are in bigger, so that they can see that they are sick, that they can feel that there is something wrong. This by itself, it seems unbearable. It is the wrath of God. It is the wrath of Allah. But this is also mercy, because it signifies here, in this place, there is a healing process. There is a process of showing people that they are not on the right path. And this is when we see war, when we see suffering, when we see pain. Pain is horrible. Sometimes in humanity there can be huge expressions of pain and suffering. And it has been breached between the two sides, not just one or the other. Since all of humanity is one, it's like there is a wound. In the wound, what happens is that there is a culmination of all sorts of liquids that develop into infection. The blood itself that flows is not an infection. The difference in a normal and harmonious way, they are not an infection. Each one has its part, but they create together an infection. The infection itself is a result of a wound, of some sort of breakage. And usually this breakage is not that one side of it, where in this place is revealed something that is contradictory to the will of God, contradictory to Allah. And usually it is up to all the conflicting sides to find, and until it will be solved, to find within themselves the courage to come together and correct the thing together and transcend above the barbarism and the forces of the natural instinct to make things worse. It is like two people that are swirling in a river, they are drowning. And instead of helping each other, in their hysteria, they are trying to drag each other down. And they would drag each other down, more, until they would both drown. A good doctor, yes? Somebody that is qualified enough in order to understand where the breakage really comes. Because you see, for instance, the current situation now in the Middle East. It is clear that there is really something that is not in harmony with the will of God, right? There is something that is clearly not in harmony with the will of God. Just a moment. There is something clearly not in harmony with the will of God from both sides. Okay? From both sides. The different groups that are fighting, that are in conflict, are not led kind of spiritual point of view. And therefore, since they are led by people that by themselves have sickness in their heart, Hamas on the one hand, okay? Hamas on the one hand, that says that they are Muslims, but if you look at their behavior, the things that they do, no truly spiritual person can ever identify with such action. These are clearly the actions of sick human beings. And everybody that is not honest enough to admit this will bring upon anyone that supports this kind of actions the wrath of God, the wrath of Allah. And on the other hand, yes, such deformities, such signs of sickness and corruption do not arise from nothing. They do arise from many, many, many mistakes that have been done in order to drive people to such insanity. And since the brave questions have not been properly asked in advance, generations before, we have came to a sickness that has grew and grew and grew until it becomes unbearable. And when a person has unbearable pain, he has unbearable sufferings from all sides, and all the people of the region scream for help, for guidance, it's not just in the region, it's all over the world. This is the time to look for the best doctor, to look for those who do have answers. And our problems are not problems of corporal war. Our problems are not physical problems. Our problems are spiritual problems. The world is big enough. Especially today, we don't live in a world of lack. We can provide food. We can provide inhabitants. We can provide well-being with the technologies that we have, not just to the people of the region, to the whole world. Easily, we can all live in peace. Our problems are not corporal problems. It's not like in the past that people needed to fight between each other over land. We are not in this world anymore. We fight over spiritual problems. Our problems are spiritual. The wars between people today are unnecessary spiritual war, or more correctly, I would say, non-spiritual war. It is because there are forces that guide spiritual questions. And instead of engaging in spiritual discussion like we are trying to do here, they take misunderstandings in spirituality and turn them into wars that the whole humanity suffers because. And we saw the real war is not between Muslims and Jews. The real war is not between Palestinians and Israelis. The real war is the war of opinions that are undeveloped instead of the developed opinions. And these undeveloped opinions turn and cascade gradually into pain and physical suffering, unnecessary physical suffering. And this is what all spiritual people in the world, as one body, of the one body of humanity, the responsible people in the world, like brothers, like the big brother together, Jews, Muslims, Christians, atheists, whatever, and understand that if we work together, we can solve this, we can prevent it, we can bring end to the suffering of everybody, but we can only do this together. So we talked today about the heart of stone and all the problems that this makes, and that only with the help of God this can be solved. It's not a matter that we can directly solve and talk to this force. By the way, it is not individual people. The heart of stone is not just we can point, this person is a heart of stone and this person is a true believer. People are complicated things. Every person has a certain that in him, that in this he is correct, in this he is connected to God, because nothing can exist without some connection to God. So in every person there's a mixture in which he is correct and a mixture in which he still needs to be corrected. And he can only be corrected by the help of others. So we must help each other. The war is not between Jews and Muslims. The war is not between this group or the other. There is truth in every group, and there is things that need to be negotiated, that my friend can see in me things that need correction, and I can see in him and help him, assuming we are doing it out of goodwill. So what is really missing is goodwill. What is really missing is the responsible adults, let's say. Yes, that can assist this process in a responsible, advanced, harmonious, spiritual way, instead of the other way. And this depends on all the believers in the world that should unite out of peace and harmony. So God willing, since we were speaking about the concept of heart of stone, I said we have a tremendous rabbi. And his name is the Rabbi Nachman of Breslev. Yes, he was a rabbi around 200 years ago in Ukraine. Okay, he lived in the city of Uman, in the city of Breslev. And it is said in the teachings that there is a reason why God gave him the name of Breslev, that the city that he lived in is the city of Breslev. Because in Hebrew, we call the heart of stone, we call it Lev Even. The heart of stone, heart is Lev, and Even means stone. So heart of stone means Lev Even. But Breslev, the name of the Rabbi Nachman of Breslev, represents heart of flesh. It says that his teachings will have to do with turning and healing the world into heart of flesh instead of heart of stone. Because he was tremendous, he attained a tremendous understanding of spirituality. So I want just to show you a very beautiful prayer that he wrote, and inshallah we will finish with this prayer. For just a moment, friend. Let me please locate it for a moment. Just a moment. So, Just 1 second, and you will see that this prayer is relevant to what we study today. So this is Tate Filot, a very, very beautiful prayer. Just a second, my friends, my internet is a bit slow today. Okay, so it's a prayer from his book. So it's from a book by his student, but it is based on his teachings. It's called Likutei Tfilot. It was written around 200 years ago. It's a prayer for the cancellation of wars. May it be your will, God our God, and that you will cancel all wars and bloodshed from the world. And you will extend a great peace and wonderful peace in the world. Carry swords towards each other, and they will not teach each other wars. Only will know and recognize and know all of the people of the world the real truth, that we have not came for this world for strife and conflicts and confrontations, God forbid, and not for hatred and jealousy and strife and bloodshed, God forbid. We have only came to the world in order to know, to recognize and know you, blessed be you forever and ever. It's a very beautiful prayer. And it comes to say that no human being has came for this world for war. Wars are unnecessary. God is peace. God is shalom. God is salam. It's not war. War is the opposite of knowing God. And it is the opposite for the purpose that we have came. With the help of God, Bezrat Hashem, even though it seems far out of reach, in our times, it